Okay, let's get started. Today we're going to get started with the Bhagavad Gita. Today we're going to start off with chapter 5, text number 20. Before getting into it, I'll just give you a little introduction on the Bhagavad Gita. Some folks out here are a little new. And for those who are listening in on Facebook or YouTube, I want you to have a little idea. The Bhagavad Gita was actually spoken 5,000 years ago, about 3000 BC. And at that time, there was a big battle taking place that involved people from all across the South Asian, I guess the whole region around India. And it was a battle that was between families, so therefore a civil war of type. And just before it starts, you have this incredible, before the battle begins, you have this incredible discussion that takes place between Krishna and his dear friend Arjun. They've grown up together, and at this point, Arjun doesn't want to take part in the battle. He's very confused, doesn't know quite what to do. And because there's relatives on the other side, family members and uncles and cousins and what have you. And this is, I think it's called a fratricidal war. Is that about right, Rima?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Where it's between their family members involved on either side. So it makes it all the more tricky. And he's like, I don't want to fight this. So he's actually advocating for nonviolence. And Krishna, who has been trying to bring about peace between these families and who has seen and witnessed the horrific deeds of the other side, Duryodhana and his family, and their meanness and their nastiness and all of that stuff, is like, no, enough. There comes a point when it's enough, where you've put up with all the atrocities of a group of people. There comes a time where they have taken everything away from you, including your dignity. There comes a time where they have tried to, at least in this case, abuse and rape the wife of the Pandavas. So, there comes a time in a person's life where you've had enough, whether that's with a friend, family member, and you have to, either set your boundaries, or you've got to be able to retaliate in some way, to let them know that you will not put up with nonsense anymore. So Krishna was not teaching a philosophy of nonviolence, nor was he teaching a philosophy of violence. What he was teaching was a very practical way of living, in which you try for nonviolence, you do your best, and then there comes a time where enough is enough is enough. And you say, all right, we're going to give it right back to you. So we're not going to keep on tolerate. We're going to tolerate for a lot. And then there comes a time where you stop tolerating it.
No turning the other cheek business.
No turning the other cheek business, at least not indefinitely. They try to really go along with things. And after, being subjected to years in exile, after being subjected to Draupadi being almost raped, after being subjected to being deprived of everything, after being cheated and everything being taken away from them through fraud, they still tried to do it peacefully. And when that failed, then it was all right. Let's meet you. We're warriors. Let's meet each other in battle and see what happens. Anyways, welcome, Martin. Martin, good to have you here, brother.
Hey, buddy, how you doing? Just got back from swimming, so got a crazy hair. How are you?
Good, doing well.
Cool. I saw your link, so I wanted to connect and just listen to what's going on. I always love listening to you.
Thank you. Thanks for being there. You're looking good.
Thank you. What's the topic?
So we're talking about a particular state of consciousness, and a lot of folks have heard about consciousness, but they have very little idea of what the destination is to really, where is it that we're trying to get? I had someone tell me today, it's about self-improvement. Spirituality is about self-improvement. And I said, okay, how far does self-improvement go? To what,
How far does it
what's
go?
your
Yeah.
destination? Like, where are you headed? Like, let's find out. How would you know you have self-improved? Like, where
That is
does
a,
it end? Or are we
that
in
is a,
some
that is a,
endless
a
spiral?
onion.
Yeah, peeling
That's
the
like an
onion
onion that you
forever.
keep getting peeled. Because you're left with judgment, right? You're left with judgment. Like, how do you know you're improved?
Yeah,
Well, the barometer is judgment. You're gonna judge yourself.
right. But I start off with that right at the beginning. When I start with people, I said, let's stop the judgment right away. I've seen that in my own life. I was subject to the judgment just like everyone else. But then I came across this statement that said, it was from the Bible. It said, "Judge not, lest you be judged."
Yeah.
I took a little promise within myself. I wasn't going to judge myself or anyone else. Well, actually, it started off with, I'm not going to judge anyone else. And then I realized, wait a minute. I'm the one that doesn't like being judged. I hate being judged. So I'm going to apply this to myself as well.
Yeah.
And so I took that, okay, I will not judge myself or anyone else. And I practiced this for over 20 years, and it's really sunk in to where, I used to stop my friends if they were judging each other, or they're calling themselves names like, "Oh yeah, I'm so stupid. How could I do that?" I say, hey,
Yeah.
we don't do that.
Yeah.
They look at me like weird. What do you mean we don't do that? I
Of course
do
we
that
do
all the
that.
time. I do that
Exactly.
all the time. What are you talking
Yeah.
about?
So I'm good at it. I'm really good at it. Why should I stop?
It even
That's
works
great.
for me. I beat myself up and I get things done. I mean, like, what do you mean?
Well, yeah, or I beat myself up so I have an excuse not to. That why my life isn't the way it is. There's
Right.
that's kind of how I look at it. I don't really, I hardly ever find it like somebody that beats themselves up like really good at being super happy.
Yeah, it doesn't
It's like,
happen. It
yeah,
doesn't happen.
it's kind of like, this is my motivator. What I'm going to do is I'm going to hit myself, and that's going to motivate me. And I'm just like, okay, I don't know about, not that I don't know how to do it, because I'm an expert. I'm an expert at it. I just, when I separated from my wife, when we separated, what I said I'm going to do is I had made her some promises, and then I made myself a promise. I'm not going to judge her, blame her, or complain about her. And I've been really good at keeping those promises. It's been really good at, and that's really just made my life better, and it's made our interactions better, because she could say what she wants to say without judgment, I'm not going to complain about it.
Yeah.
I don't blame her for anything. I don't blame her for the marriage or the dissolution or any of that. So it's just, because what I found is if I judge, if I blame or I complain, that's going to take me down to that regressive cycle. I'm just not going to end up in a good place. I never do.
Right. Never do.
Yeah.
And you know what, Martin? What about for yourself? Would you give yourself the same respect and honor to not do that for yourself?
The answer is yes. The answer is absolutely yes. It is, I would say it's a little more difficult practice, because the mechanism is automatic.
Yes.
So, if
So
it's
right.
someone sitting in front of me and I have a thought, I can see the thought.
Mm.
When it's inside of me, it often sneaks up and is already in play before I catch it. Oh, what's up here?
I like that. The thing is that whether it's judging another person or yourself, it's still in here. In fact, everything, the entire world lives right in here. You see the world literally according to how your mind sees things, right? So then the question is, it is about catching it, and it can be caught. And I'll tell you this, the moment it starts going there is when you want to catch it, because if you let it spiral, if you let it start, then the spirals get bigger and bigger and harder to get out of.
Yes.
But in my experience, if you develop a practice of catching it first thing as it starts, then it's much easier.
Mhm.
That's what's kind of helped me. Um,
I made it. You know what happened with me is I went on. It's funny. So I went on some journeys. I actually did some journeys with a shaman, and that changed a lot. And then what I then did is I then made an agreement. My heart, my mind actually made an agreement. We had a conversation, And my heart, that my brain know that the things that we were doing, the way that my brain learned to protect me, didn't work anymore. And it was actually very hurtful. And it was really interesting when I was having that, and I was having that conversation out loud with a friend. I was like, I'm going to have a conversation. I want you to be present so that I can do this. And when I said to my heart would say, hey, let's have a conversation. This thing that you do, it doesn't work because all you're doing is hurting us.
Mm.
And the thing is that the brain didn't know that. The programming didn't understand that. It thought it was protecting.
Wow.
And
it does think that. It does think that.
Yeah.
But don't you have to be pretty self-aware to not get feedback? I mean,
what do you mean?
How will you, in like yesterday, okay, this is really strange. I did a poll with 10 people saying, on a scale of 0 to 10, how many of you think I'm self-centered? With 10 being like really self-centered, right? It turns out people didn't even understand what self-centered meant. But anyway, so how would you know unless you're really self-aware and continuously trying to improve, right? And so don't you have to judge yourself to figure out, to improve yourself?
Do you know what is the difference between judgment and what would you say is the judgment between judgment? Sorry, let me restart this again. How would you differentiate between judgment and discernment?
Oh, okay. So maybe discernment is what I'm trying to get after.
That's right. I think that's what you're asking about. Judgment is condemnation. And might be another word that you could use instead, a synonym for judgment. Right? You're such telling yourself you're such an idiot. Okay, that's judgment.
You're creating a value. You're kind of it's like a matrix of value, and then there's a place where there's already a place where you're supposed to be. Like,
that's right.
And if you're not there, then then you're going to define yourself as, excuse my language, like maybe a piece of shit, or you're a failure, or that's the direction it's going to go, or then your ego's just excited about it and you're like that, and then what's going to happen is your ego's then going to go, but you really are that, you really aren't all that.
I think you've really nailed it, Martin, in saying that there's a certain place where you're supposed to be. That place could be called normal. That place could be called successful. That place could, whatever you want to call that, beautiful, whatever is your, intelligent, whatever is that criteria of where you're supposed to be. Now, what if you took away the supposed to be? Now you'd be left free floating. You really don't have a standard you're trying to live up to. What if you added to that you are permitted to make mistakes? Let's start there. Then you're permitted to be flawed and imperfect because everybody is, right? You're permitted to be defective and not good enough because everybody is, right? What if you take the rug out from under the feet of your ego, which is trying to create this normalcy and comparison and all this other stuff in its attempt to help you?
So I would respond to that as saying, so if I was going to say I can be not good enough, that's a slippery slope. It's a really, really slippery slope, because like, what do I mean by that? Like,
exactly.
How does saying that serve me?
How does saying it serve you? Let's put it the other way around.
So how would I say? So I'd look at it and I'd go, okay, am I just being a smart rat? Like, learning, am I just going to beat myself up this other way, or am I going to be in service to myself? And then let me look, and now I go, like, am I in service to my heart? Like, is this in service?
Before you even reach your heart, let's first clear the head out, because the head's in the way of the heart.
But the problem with the head is the head doesn't have the heart was built first in our body.
Of course.
So the heart was the first organ made. The brain came out in order to functionalize everything else. And then at some point, the brain saw that it was doing a better job at protecting us than the heart, because the heart's just, I think, just loves everything. It's like, that's really cool. That's fine. It's all good. I don't like it, but it's not my job I don't manage that part. And then I think the brain then said, I think the brain goes, yeah, I'm really good at this. So don't worry about that, heart. I got this. I got you. You're not going to hurt as much. And then it just took over. And it's like, I think it's kind of like a dog that just poops anywhere. You got to say, hey, we're just not going to poop everywhere anymore. We're just not going to do that.
You have talked about exactly what I would have said. So thank you.
I learned that from you.
You got that whole thing.
That's your thing, buddy. I learned. I didn't make this one up. I got this one for you about the dog that you can go to the bathroom anywhere. Yeah.
Right. As far as the brain or the mind, actually the mind, that's the software part. I call the brain the hardware and the mind the software. Say
that again. I'm sorry. Say that again.
I think of the brain as the organ, the physical organ, with all the stuff inside there. That's the physical hardware. And I think of the mind as the software, which is
okay. Yeah.
It's programmed ever since you were a kid. It's been getting programmed.
Good.
So now, coming back to this, one of the things the therapists I come across again and again is people calling themselves names, judging themselves. And one of the deepest level of self-judgment that I find is when people say to themselves, I'm not good enough. And they never challenge what that really means. Or I'm somehow, I'm not good enough, or I'm broken, or I'm flawed, or I'm messed up, or what is wrong with me. I was actually bringing up some of the areas of self-judgment when I said that. These are the so-called things the mind is using to so-called protect us. But in fact, it's not. What it's doing is actually putting you down and thereby causing you to not live up to your capability and causing you to sabotage and causing you to go often into depression and anxiety and all kinds of other things that are that are actually defeating the purpose of what it could and should be doing if it was properly guided. Okay.
You said something that just totally, I don't remember what it was, but you said something that just hooked me.
All right, think it over. So I'm getting that the first level of really taking charge, and what Nirmala talked about, being self-aware, this is what we're doing here, is totally talking about being self-aware. And people who aren't self-aware aren't going to relate to what we're talking about. This is really a program for people who are interested in being self-aware, because that's the beginning. First, self-awareness means literally being aware, means observing yourself as if you were an outsider watching you. So as if you were watching, and it starts with your mind, as if you were watching your thoughts, as if you were an observer to your thoughts. And now you'd stop and you could actually question them. Wait a minute, how do you know that? Like, where did you get that information? Like, you say I'm a loser. Well, compared to what? What's a loser? How do you define loser? Okay.
Challenge. You said challenge.
You challenge the mind.
That's what I want to talk about in a minute. I want to know more about that.
You challenge the mind, you're going to find the more it tends to back down, because it really doesn't have a basis. It really hasn't been challenged. Nobody dared to do it till now. It went with impunity, just kind of like living however it wanted to. It's like that dog you talked about, Martin, that was just pooping everywhere and had no regard for anything. You were going to say something.
Or I wrote down challenge the mind, like challenge that conversation. I just wrote that on my board. So it's like, what I'm examining right now is this pain that's existed. And I've talked to you about it, but it's so, I'd say it's like 90%, 95% gone, but there's pain that I experience. And it's like it's not like there's no pain there, but it's like an idea. It's a judgment. It's something that exists in here. And then this thing over here called Martine awakes it by creating anxiety, by creating pain, by creating drama. And then all of a sudden this right here, and then this right here is now in play. It's now engaged.
You're talking about a physical pain going on
Yeah,
on the left side of your
yeah.
body.
And it literally, like I wrote it. I'll show you. I wrote a picture of it. It's like, that's it. That's the picture.
Okay.
It's this and that. And so I'm looking at that, and so it's a game. It's a game. I get it. It's like a game that's being played with my life.
Hmm. A game that's being played with your life. Excellent.
Yeah.
Keep going. What do you think the game is?
I think the game, I honestly think the game was a game that was built
Mhm.
in service to me.
Uh-huh.
And then as the brain developed and did the service, it's like, I'm not going to let that hurt you. I'm not going to let that hurt you. I'm going to defend you against that. It had to store it somewhere.
Right.
And this is where it stored it. It's like, I can
Yes.
hide it there. I can hide it there.
Yes, it has taken the pain of whatever was there, the unresolved issues that were there, the unresolved emotions that were there, and it will use the body. What is unresolved out here tends to get stored in the body. So this is, extra unprocessed data that now gets put into the hard disk of your body.
Yes. Yes. And so it's like not usable. It's not useful. It's like, this is like, it's
No, but
rubbish.
all-
It's like rubbish that exists.
No. If you
Okay.
will now bring it back to the level of rubbish, you will continue to disregard it. What was disregarded here got stored here. If you now disregard it further out here, it will inflame even further.
I agree. Okay.
You're following the same pattern. Now, instead, get curious about what it is. Literally dialogue with your body and talk to that part of you and say, tell me why you're here. If you hear nothing, be patient. Maybe you have to repeat it over a period of time again and a few other times. The body has to see that you're actually going to listen. Because if you haven't been listening to it in the past, when I would tell people about dialoguing with their body, they would say, oh, my body doesn't say anything. I'd say your body has to develop a trust that you're going to listen. Usually, the information that is released so quickly, so spontaneously that you almost disregard it. You're more used to listening to the loud chatter of your mind. Whereas the things that arise from your higher self, the things that arise from your body are like little whispers like one-liners or one word, right? Like as if something very soft voice just spoke to you. And we tend to we're used to the loud voice, so we disregard it. Like inspiration can be that way too. And so can healing. But if you really listen, you pay attention, and you ask the question, what is it that's bothering you? What is it, how can I help you? What is it that I'm ignoring? Where have I missed out on, is there an emotion that I haven't been dealing with? You'll find that your body will actually tell you what it is. And once you listen to that, all you got to do is acknowledge that feeling, say, oh, thank you so much for sharing that. I realized that I wasn't paying attention. What is it you need? How can I support you? How can I love you? Right? And you'll notice that the physical symptoms will go away. I've been healing myself like this for over 20 years.
It really is like the level at which it is I'd say 5% of where it used to be. I remember where I was actually when you and I had a conversation probably about 5 or 6 years ago. I remember I was parked over my son's baseball practice, and we had a conversation. I said at that time it was 100. Right now it's 5.
Oh wow!
It's
wow.
It's tremendous. It's like way down.
You've done a lot of work to get there. I know I've not been part of that, so
You sure have. You sure have.
Kudos to you.
You've been a lot of it. You sure have made a big difference, Rohit. That's but the interesting thing about the last percentages is that the difference between 99% and 99.9% and 100% is tremendous.
Mm.
It is a It is a huge shift.
Yeah. That means there's still something left.
Yeah.
There's still something left there. All right, let me get on to the Bhagavad Gita a little bit. I'm
Thank
going
you.
to read
Thank
you an
you.
interesting paragraph from there, an interesting passage.
I've got to
because
go in a
it
minute. I
answers
got to
the
jump on a
question.
call.
Yeah, it answers the question I started off with. What is spirituality? And how do you know that a person is actually spiritually evolved or advanced? What are the symptoms of such a person? So we're on a verse that is talking about that. And here it gives the symptoms. This is chapter 5, text number 20. A person who neither rejoices upon achieving something pleasant, nor laments upon obtaining something unpleasant, who is self-intelligent, means like self-aware, who is unbewildered, and who knows the science of God, is already situated in transcendence. Such a liberated person is not attracted to the pleasure of the senses, but is always in trance, enjoying the pleasure within. In this way, the self-realized person enjoys unlimited happiness, where he concentrates on the divine. One more. An intelligent person does not take part in the sources of misery, which are due to contact with material senses. Such pleasures have a beginning and an end, and so the wise man does not delight in them. All right, let's go now. Let's go. Let's
Not
break it
delight
down.
in them. Does not delight in them.
So it doesn't mean that you don't, it's not about saying that you're not going to have anything to do with the world or you're not going to enjoy the world, but your real delight has reached a different level. Like you found something within yourself that is so delightful that nothing compares to it.
Oh,
Yeah.
that's
And
just a beautiful thought.
yeah. You know, the thing that we've all been looking for, whether it was happiness or peace or love or any of those things, you know, or wisdom, or is all right here. And what you find out on the path of spirituality is that that which you were looking for all along was here all this time. It's not about becoming self-improvement. Self-improvement is nice. It's a lovely thing to improve your mind, to improve your body. Beautiful. But that's still, you know, it's like cleaning your car, right? You can have a nice, clean car, but forget to feed yourself. The part that really matters more than anything else is awakening the real you, awakening your soul. And that part, when it comes into play, is a whole different life, becomes actually different, entirely different. So these are the symptoms of someone whose soul has awakened. He says, such a person neither rejoices upon achieving something pleasant nor laments upon obtaining something unpleasant. See, this is equanimity, right? And it is not possible with the mind, because the mind is constantly in a state of duality. It thinks of things as positive and negative. I like this, I don't like this. I agree with you, I disagree with you. This is right, this is wrong, this is good, this is bad. You can go down the list. It's always in this state of duality, plus and minus. But equanimity is where you go out of the cycle of positive and negative. You go beyond that. And that is the place where, from where you're able to actually do what this is being talked about out here. So even if you received, let's say, millions of dollars, if you're like, yeah, cool. If you lost millions of dollars, yeah, cool. All right. It's like, okay, this is life. This is how it works. I see some people practicing that these days with the with cryptocurrencies and the way they go up and they go down. And they're just like, you know what? It's just what it does. It's how it is. I said, you guys are learning something very important about life. You're learning how to observe life with all its ups and downs and not get phased. The
It's all a
average
metaphor.
right? The average person would be completely devastated. Oh my God, I put in $1,000. It's now worth only 200. And they say, don't worry, it'll come back. It'll come
That's right.
back. It'll all come back. Don't worry about it.
Or it won't.
Or it won't, right? But, so, you know, they have this approach of it's a game we're going to play.
Well,
Right?
it's funny. It's like, I just won $1 million. That's okay. Don't worry about it. You'll have a bad day. You know?
Yeah.
Don't get ahead of yourself.
Don't get ahead of yourself, because you could win it all and you could lose it all in just a
Yes.
moment. But Rudyard Kipling in his poem If talks about that. He says, if you could make a toss, you could make a heap of all your winnings, right? And then lose it all in one throw of dice. You'll be a man. And then he
Pitch and
tells
toss,
us,
yeah.
yeah, about pitch and toss. I was
My
just
favorite poem.
right? Yeah, one of my favorites as well.
I
He
have to
talks about
go.
be willing
I have to leave.
Oh, okay.
Gotta get back up.
Thanks for
I love
joining
you.
us. Appreciate it. Always
Thank
welcome.
you, Rima. Thank you for thanks for spending this time with me and letting me spend the time with you. And is it Narmala?
Nirmala.
Nirmala. Thank you. I gotta go.
Sure.
Talk
Take
soon.
care.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
So how do you differentiate between, that state of, I've forgotten what the word is, where you don't get like overly excited or
Self-realization or
yeah,
equanimity. Yeah.
versus not caring.
Oh, yeah. Not caring. No, the question is, thank you so much. That's a great question. Not caring or indifference is very different to this, because when you are equipoised, you are okay either way. That's not about not caring. That's about having shifted to a different place. Now, look, if you had a child, the child didn't get candy, right? They wanted the candy in the store and they're throwing a fit because they didn't get that. And then and you give them the candy and now they're really happy and like so smiling. But you as the adult really doesn't bother you either way. You got the candy, you don't, not a big deal. You might have it, you might enjoy it. It's not like you don't care about it, but you have better things to do. In fact, you have better foods to eat, better things that you know are more nutritious for you. So when you reach a state where what you're experiencing is of a higher vibration or of a better quality than something else, then it's not a big deal anymore.
So the mundane conversations get really boring sometimes,
Oh, yeah.
especially if you're interested in philanthropy, right? But
Well,
sometimes people
I
need to
always
talk.
find, even within the mundane, I can find, something absolutely profound over there, if the person is willing to consider it. You were going to say something further?
So even if it's an old person saying the same story again and again and again, you somehow you find something interesting about it.
Yes, you find nuances within it. You find subtle nuances that you didn't hear before. And then you can dig deeper into those. And there'll always be more. So if you maintain a high level of curiosity, you'll find that there are always rabbit holes to go into, and always ways to find deeper and deeper meaning and deeper thought.
Well, that is if you can control ask questions. But if it's a bunch of people
Mm-hmm.
and it's just materialistic conversation or
But there is nothing like a materialistic conversation. In fact, there's nothing like materialism. I will defer on this point, because if you are truly in a spiritual place, you will not see things as material or spiritual. You will have been practicing finding the spiritual in the mundane, finding the extraordinary in the ordinary. You would have been practicing this, because that's what it means to be a truly spiritual person, is that you don't really separate. You understand that everything is divine, whether that everything is good or bad, doesn't matter. Whether it's someone who is a saint or a sinner, doesn't matter. There is something profound to be learned from everyone and every situation. So the separation of these two things, I just want to go towards the positive. There's a lot of folks there who just want to be positive. No, being positive is no better than being negative. We want to go beyond positive and negative, beyond duality, as we were reading earlier.
okay.
I'm going to read to you from a poem that I was reading today. It's from a famous Sufi poet. And he writes here in his poem, Na tha kuch to khuda tha. When there was nothing, there was God. When there was nothing in the entire creation, then there was God. Kuch na hota to khuda hota. And even if there continued to be nothing, there would still be God. Na tha kuch to khuda tha, kuch na hota to khuda hota. Duboya mujhko hone ne. This existence has drowned me within it. This is a very famous one. This existence has drowned me, has crushed me, has devoured me. Na hota main to kya hota? But if I didn't exist, then what difference would it make? He's really working on the ego here, really working on dismantling the ego, which wants to be significant, which wants to matter, which wants to be something. And it's saying, I don't matter. I am not significant. I am nothing. And even in my absence, nothing would prevail because that nothingness, in that nothingness is God. In everything is nothing, and in nothing is God, and in everything is God. I
So
don't know
we
if you
have a
find the
purpose or
puzzle.
not?
We have and we do not have. This question people keep asking about your purpose. There is a purpose that overlies all creation. One must find that. Why was all this created? There is no book on earth that will tell you that. Why was this creation? Why did it exist? After all, in this creation, there is so much of suffering. Why would the Creator create something in which there was so much suffering? Okay, what was the point? That we come here, we go through birth, death, old age, disease, we go through all kinds of misery, right? We go through financial abundance and then everything gets taken away from us at some point. We go through, we're young and beautiful and then we get old in time. We're healthy and then we get diseased. You know, we go through all these ups and downs. It's enough to drive someone crazy. And some people do go crazy. Yeah. So why would the Creator create such a thing? There's a reason. There is a deep reason, and the one that we don't want to understand. It is to find who you really are. So first you get to play at being that which you're not. All that you do in your life is play acting. Shakespeare said it beautifully. He says, all the world's a stage and all the men and women merely players or actors. They have their entrances and their exits. Right? So all of us are like, we're in this play. Now, once you understand that, you begin to see, okay, in this world, what is to be achieved with all these ups and downs, with all this suffering and misery? There's one thing to be achieved. You've been play acting something, and you realize this play acting that I've been doing, being a man, being a woman, being young, being old, being rich, being famous, being this, being that, all of that did not really satisfy me. I wanted love, I wanted happiness, I wanted wisdom, I wanted to live forever, I wanted to matter, to be significant. None of that was achieved, no matter what I did. So once that happens, the ego is shattered. And when the ego is shattered, even the most rich and successful person at the point of death comes to that point of humility and begins to ask, why? What was all this all about? When the ego is shattered, that is the time where the soul awakens. That is the time where you begin to ask, who am I really? If I am not this, then what am I? And that is the point of awakening for the soul. When the soul awakens, you begin to experience the real you, not the fake you that you've been living all your life, but the real you. That real you which is beyond time, that is beyond death, that never gets old, that never experiences suffering, the real you which is always blissful, always peaceful, always kind, always loving, that.
So the real you doesn't have some sort of mission while they're here?
It is to find itself, to find out who am I and who is and where did then if I once I know me, then I wonder where did I come from? What is that source? What is that God? Now, in Christianity, you would learn about God as a concept through a book, the Bible, and you would be told to have faith in this God and believe in this God. In Hinduism, that is not the case, particularly if you study the philosophy. And I'm not going to go into what the average person thinks. The average person probably thinks in some religious way as well, and probably just believes something just because that's what their family did or parents did or whatever else. But the real philosophy of Hinduism, which is actually Hinduism itself is the wrong word, it is Sanatan Dharma, the eternal Dharma, the eternal duty, the eternal religion of humanity. So in that Sanatan Dharma, it is said that the purpose of life is to find out who you are and where you came from, the absolute truth. That is the truth of the world is relative, whereas the truth of that realm of the divine is absolute truth. So here, instead of believing in something, in this path, we experience it. We experience it through meditation, through quieting the mind. The Bible also says that. I'm saying this to Nirmala because she was exposed to both Christian and Hindu faiths, one parent being Christian, the other being Hindu. This path is one where you meditate and you learn to quiet the mind. And as you quiet the mind, you experience the soul. That is the beginning of your experience of God. The same thing is said in the Bible. Be still and know that I am God. Because it is only in stillness of the mind, that you will begin to know God. You will begin to experience God. How do you know? Not through a book, but through an experience. Be still and know that I am God. That is what is actually taught out here. And that is what the purpose of this Bhagavad Gita is, and the meditations that it talks about and all of that. So back to Mirza Ghalib. He is talking about how creation has crushed him, drowned him. And this crushing is the crushing of the ego. So then he goes on to further describe in poetic language how the ego gets crushed. Hmm. And even if I did not exist, what difference would it make? Hua jab gam se yun, I have been so crushed with sadness, with grief, with pain in this life, that so crushed that even if one was to cut off my head, it wouldn't make any difference. But even more so, even if one was to, that could be done talked of physically or metaphorically. Even if you cut off my ego, you make me lose my self-respect. You make me lose my sense of self. It wouldn't matter. I'm so crushed now that nothing would matter anymore. तो गम क्या फिर सर के कटने का. And then he goes on, it has been ages since I died. Now he's alive, he's writing. He is saying it is hui muddat ke Ghalib mar gaya. His name is Ghalib. He's saying it has been ages since Ghalib died, but I remember him fondly. वो हर एक बात पर कहना मैं कि यूं होता तो क्या होता. So he says, I'm remembering the person I used to be, the ego that used to be, with great fondness. It used to do lots of things to try to protect me. It had such a tremendous sense of identity. But now I don't relate to that anymore.
This has nothing to do with reincarnation. This is
no. This is just the dissolution of the ego.
Okay.
Reincarnation is a whole other thing. We can talk about that some other time. We're coming to the end of this particular portion of our meetup. But he's remembering the ego that has passed, has become quiet now. It's become quiet. And it used to always worry that if this were to happen, then what would happen? If this happened, then what? So what if? Do you find yourself sometimes doing what if questions?
Oh yeah. But Rima is very quiet. I mean, I'm talking too much.
Rima, do you sometimes find yourself doing what if questions?
Of course.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's the ego. The ego is constantly wondering, what if this, what if that, what if this, what if that? And if you let it go, it can really spiral into worry and into anxiety and into fear. It can really take you for a toss. But if at that time, when that begins, the what if you turn the what if back on itself, watch how we do this. So it will say, what if something really bad happened? But then you turn it around and say, well, what if something good happened? Right? Now, because whatever you think, the opposite of that is equally possible. Where there is light, there will also be darkness. Where there is good, there will also be bad. Where there is bad, there will also be good. If you're a loser, then at some level, you're also a winner. If you're a winner, then at some level, you might be a loser too. Once you can hold both these realities, I am both a winner and a loser. I am both right and wrong. At that moment, all conflict stops, all ego stops, all attempts to try to prove anything stop, all sense of self-aggrandizement begins. If you think you're significant and insignificant at the same time, I am everything and nothing, then what are you? You've gone out of the trap of duality. So that's what we are working towards. Why do we want to do that? Because in doing that, you now have access to really experiencing life as it is, to experiencing yourself as you are, to experiencing God as God is. But with your human mind, it is next to impossible. Any questions before we wind up for today? I have talked of some pretty intense subjects. I'm feeling you might be left either curious or befuddled. Tell me which one it is.
That was fascinating for me.
Both. That's why I keep coming back, Rohit.
I might even need a one-on-one before next week.
I'll give you my website. You can see what it is I do.
Okay.
There. You'll see it in the chat.
Okay, great.
Click on that. You can see more of what I do. Now we're going to be back in just about 2 minutes, in just about a minute, in fact, for the next meetup. The next meetup is called Loving Soulfully, and it's on the same link that you're in access this one with. But in that one, we talk about relationships. We talk about loving soulfully, which is really based on my book on about self-love and about relationships. So thank you for being here today. We had a very small crowd, but I think that was maybe my fault. I didn't send out the email. I think that may be it. But I'll see you all next week. Take care.
Thank you. And quickly,
You wanna
before
come
you,
back? Yes.
I'm trying to figure out how to copy the link. But what was it? The website? Just say it out loud and I'll remember.
It's my name, Rohit, Rohit,
Okay.
and the last name Juneja,
Okay.
Juneja.com.
All right. Thank you.
RohitJuneja.com.
Okay. So if we stay online, we'll listen to the next.
Yes, what you
Okay.
can do is I'm going to end this over here right now.
Okay.
And in case you find yourself disconnected, just use the same link and come back in again.
Okay. Thank you
All
so
right.
much.
Welcome.
Okay.
Bye.
Bye.